Like we could yeah, certainly, but we could like crop it like, in the editing
Don't worry.
process. Yeah, so don't
That's
worry.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is your voice. Just.
That's an interesting reply too.
That's very interesting.
I think you're making her nervous, man.
I hope everyone who is watching is having a good day, and just as Judy said, like take a shower, get out fresh air. And
hi everyone, this is Shravan. I'm a graduate student from Boston University in the program of art administration. And today I will be the interviewer to interview Judy, and our topic will be mental health.
Thank you, Jawan. Hi, everyone. My name is Judy. I'm a graduate student at UPenn, and during my free time, I usually like to study like meditation, yoga, and I'm also certified as an integrative health coach at Duke University. So I hope I will be able to share something I know that will be of help to everyone regarding the topic of mental health.
Yeah, so as we know, mental health now is like a really big problem for a lot of students, and it's having a trend of getting more younger, especially when people are involved with school, and it's getting more worse. So like how do you think about the bullying problem that we have in like especially in high school, and like it's more turning to the middle school? And is there anything we can do? And how do we solve the problem when there is a bullying come up?
I think this is several things because the way the society is structured, actually like the people who bully others, they are the victims as well. Maybe at home, like their parents like control them too much or like beat them up, and they just think that's the right thing to do, so that they will pass this on to others, or they're just like very repressed, and then they want a sense of like a gratification or some kind of acknowledgement, so they want to show it by overpowering others. So that's the thing. Like I think it's important to recognize that they're in pain as well. And for the people who got bullied, I think it's important to show confidence, be strong, establish your boundaries, and then just trust your instinct. Like sometimes you just feel like, oh, like I don't want to hang out with those kind of people. Like I should like avoid those kind of people. And then just find people with like similar vibe as you and have like a support group. So like if you're with your friends, of course, like they're not gonna like approach you, right? But it's hard. Like sometimes when we just come to the country by ourselves studying, we don't know like who to talk to, or maybe there's a person who shows some kindness, but then maybe that's not their true purpose. So we just have to watch out. But I think it's important to have a positive mindset, and that's how with that, then everything else will come naturally.
Wow. So I feel like really committing to the thing you said, because I came here for like a really young age, probably like 14, 15, and I definitely been through a high school bullying situation, and it does really affected that like more than a lot of people think. And yeah, I wish at that time like I have like the support you have right now, and especially like a lot of people don't get like supported, and like they don't even notice that's like a problem and that need to be addressed. And I think it's really necessary for people to be educated like how important it is, and solve the question as soon as possible. And there's another thing like I noticed in starting from high school, that like there is a stereotype of people thinking that if you're like an Asian or like international students, you're coming from another country and then you study abroad here, you must be really rich. And then I do see a lot of like my friends from high school, they likely to show off the luxury products and the lifestyle that like among the same age people, like they don't get it, like why were you doing this, and then it's increasing a bad impression of international students. But like how do you think about it? Like it's a little bit spicy, I know, like, but how do you think about this situation?
I think it's just the social value is different, because in China, like usually we're brought up in a way that like our parents will start comparing like kids, right, with other kids, and then like what kind of jobs or like house, like that's the conversation, like, oh, like what does your daughter do, like what school does she go to or something like that, and
Yeah,
it kind of
definitely.
just automatically forms this impression like, oh, like the kids will think like, oh, like this is how the society is supposed to be. But in the US it's a little bit different. Like if you see some parents that's like very nice and caring, they'll be like, oh, like what did you do in school today, kiddo, like is everything okay, how was your experience with your friends? But then in China it's like, oh, like what kind of grade did you get today, like we're going to this after school program like afterwards to help you with math because you're struggling with it and it's not acceptable. So it's like very different. And then the people who show off, like you said, like they want to show off their riches or luxury products, I feel like a lot of it is like their parents are very rich, but then at the same time maybe they didn't take the time to establish a good connection with their kid. It's either they care, but then from a physical perspective, like, okay, I provided for all your luxury products, I give you food and shelter, but then have this emotional connection, like, oh, like how did you feel today, like hanging out with your friends, right? And another thing is they just do what they think is right for you, but they never ask like your opinion, like, oh, what's your dream, like, okay, you want to be a celebrity, okay, maybe if that's what you want, then maybe you should think about like going to like acting school or like do some internship. But then in China it's like, no, that's unacceptable, like you should do like accounting or something that's like a stable job.
Yes,
I mean, I'm just saying like
the
any
engineer,
like,
doctor, and the typical job that people want.
yeah, so I feel like that's one of the reasons why people want to show off, because they feel like from the deep part of their heart, they want some kind of acknowledgement, because they're not getting it from their parents, they might not be getting it from their friends. So when they get into a new environment, they want to show that, so that people will be like, oh, that's so cool, like you have luxury products, maybe I should be friends with you. That's their thinking. They kind of want to use that as a sign to attract people to them. But then it usually creates the opposite effect, because people will be like, oh, this person like show off, or like this very arrogant, like why should I approach that person? So it actually pushes people away from you.
So like, does that mean it's like more like a weapon that they're using like luxury product to weapon themselves, so they look like bigger than they really are?
Yeah, I think it's a way for them to establish like self-confidence, but at the same time, because other people might not take it as well, especially like people from Western countries, they will, because that's not the way they brought up, like maybe it's a little bit more simple, or maybe they don't compare like luxury product, they compare like your education or the way you think intellectually, so they might not value as much. So it's kind of like you're comparing chicken with like apple, right? It
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's why like it would be hard for those people to have friends, but over time like everything will work out.
Yeah, definitely. So like beloved is like a really important thing that can bring you happiness in your life, that, but like money, well, here's like another question, because like so we know like there are a lot of people on Forbes list, like they're coming from like a really wealthy family, but like sometimes they don't really feel happy about it. Like even so, like they have a lot of money. For like a normal people perspective, like we think money can buy like your happiness, like the thing you like, and it must be like no trouble for you like in life. Like if you have a lot of money, like money can buy a lot of like convenience, but like we don't see a lot of people really being happy about that much money. So like how would you see it from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for people who are on the Forbes list or anything. Like I don't know any of them in real life that closely, but I think it's just that when you're in that kind of status of society, you're always like you cannot be yourself in a way, because the society expects you to be in a certain way, or like you're supposed to go to some kind of Ivy League school, or like you're supposed to like learn like how to do horseback riding or something, right? So there's this kind of expectation, and then some people might like it and then they enjoy the environment, they're happy, but others might feel like it's restrictive, like I want to have friends who's not like this, like, or they do something different, or like music or filming, but it's not what the family expected. So I feel like they will feel unhappy. I feel like money is necessary, because you need money to provide basically shelter, if you want to go to school, or if you want to travel somewhere, to like open up your perspective and open up to different cultures. But I think too much money might not be good either, because sometimes people approach you because they want to borrow money from you or they want to
Yeah.
have business with you, but then and they treat you as friends. But sometimes when like you're out of money from
Then
a,
it's
like a
gone.
high level status, and then you realize who are your true friends, because the
Yeah.
people who usually hang out with, they just like disappear.
Yeah,
like,
because of your fame or your money, like this is what they really want and what they're looking at.
yeah, so I think it's the most important thing is to establish this inner connection, like find yourself, connect with yourself, connect with nature, and have a few friends or family members who really understand you, could be present for you and have this like a safe space for you. So whatever you say, whatever you express, they're not going to judge, and they can give you the advice from their perspective, but they don't force it up on you. They're not going to say like, oh, I give you advice, you must take it, you must be a lawyer or something. Like it's more like, okay, I think this is what you said, and then maybe this is what you could do, but I'm just giving the advice to you from my perspective, and it might not be what you really wanted, but you can think this through. I think this kind of love and bonding is very important, no matter like what your social status is, and that's where the true happiness comes, because mental health is about your psychological, your mental, emotional state, but also your social well-being. Like how well do you connect with the external world, the environment, and
Yeah, so it would be like a really complex question together. So is there any like tips or like method you can provide that like help us to find belongings and the feeling of beloved?
Yeah, I think it's a huge topic, but if you say like just belonging and love, there are several things. The first and most important thing is to be grounded. Like a lot of people, maybe they go out a lot,
Yeah.
because they feel like if they stay at home, they're not going to be very active. But they need to have this goal setting in mind. Like, I want to go out because I want to have friends who have share similar interests, and then which will motivate me. But then if you don't have this goal in mind, like you think you're going out for your own good, but then you might be doing something that's not productive, or like just wasting time, and that's not good either. But grounding can be different for every single person. For some people, it might be like nature, like they might go take a walk in a forest and then hug the trees, or like look at the rocks, or like sit by the river. And then it might be different for someone else, like maybe like going to a running club or something, like some kind of exercise to ground yourself, like, or like yoga, like qigong. So some kind of exercise definitely needed to ground yourself. And then the sense of belonging, I think, is just find someone who shares similar interests or experience, but then in a positive way. Let's say
A good company, right?
yeah, let's say like you love listening to music, and that person also loves listening to music, and you guys share some past experience together, or share some interest together, and then you just feel like the conversation is like flows naturally, right? Like what we're doing now, like we don't, it's not like we pre-scripted anything, so it just flows naturally, and then just let everything go as it's supposed to be. So I think exercise is the most like important, and the other thing is food, because we are what we eat.
Yeah.
And then if we eat like fried food or like hamburgers every single day, right?
Yeah.
That's not gonna be very helpful. Like there are studies, like people would force themselves to have like hamburgers for like 30 days. You can just see like the mental state, their physical state. They will gain like so much weight, and then their minds are clouded, their brain is not like functional correctly. So food is definitely important too. You have to eat food that's like nourishing, like balanced. And then I think the third most important thing is sleep, because if during the day we're stressed or we don't get enough rest, and then at night we're not getting the rest, then we're not allowing our mental body, and then the subtle body, and also our physical body to rest. And then it's kind of like if you have a car and then you just keep driving it for years after year, but you never bring the car to check up or like do things to maintain the car, then obviously there will be problems later on. Even though you might not feel it, it doesn't mean there's no problem. It's more like you've been ignoring it, or you're just not aware that it's like deteriorating yet. So I think that's also very important. So those are like the things I think that's important.
Yeah. To be summarized, it's more like find things that can ground, like can help to ground you, and like find your good company, and eating more balanced, nourished, whole food, right? That's just really
like healthy
really
food,
main
or
point.
sometimes like it's okay to have a cheat day, like
Yeah,
once in a while. But
yeah,
sometimes
the
it's
sugar.
also nice to do some kind of fasting, right? Let's say, let's say once or twice a month, you just dedicate one day to do like a vegetarian fasting. Like you don't have grains or like beans or something that's like heavy for your stomach. Just let your stomach like rest, and then you will just feel much lighter, like from a physical perspective, but also from a mental, emotional perspective. It's kind of like a offloading things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good like perspective, because like food is something that like really be brought up, and yeah, that actually like I'm thinking about the another like a really big question and problem here in the mental health field. It's about like the depression thing, because I've seen a lot of like people having depression problems, and it's actually becoming one of the biggest mental disease in United States, and have the trending of getting increased and getting into more young age. And especially when we're talking about the international students group, I actually have friends and classmates who is international students and end up getting suicide. And is there any way that like we can prevent it, like, or something we can do to adjust our mindset and don't let this tragedy happen again?
Yeah, I feel like it's more about the flow of information, because right now in our society we're over flooded with information from like social media, and then or like from like movies or like dramas, novels, and then sometimes those movies or drama or novels, they're teaching us something, like we get something out of it, like, oh, I want a friend like that, I don't want to experience like that. But sometimes it's just giving us values that's technically not right, but then no one is saying that's not right, and then people around you think, oh, that's normal, like because everyone's doing that. So I think it's important to control the flow of information. Like I was watching Jay Shetty, like he had an Instagram video. He was saying like we're doing something wrong fundamentally, because every day when we get up, we would check our phone. It's probably first in the morning, and then like start checking like Instagram or like Twitter or like all kinds of social media. But he's like, actually think about it. Like, would you like when you wake up in the morning, would you like open your door and then invite like 30 different random people you don't even know into your house?
That's an interesting metaphor.
Like would you do that?
No.
Yeah, but we're doing that to our mind every single day, because we're like when we get up, we get on our phone, we're like looking at different kind of news and information. So it's essentially that's what we're doing to our mind every single day. That's why usually when I get up, I try to do some like meditation or yoga to like calm myself first, to establish just like boundary with myself, with the external world. So then when I interact with people, like I feel more grounded, and I feel like I know who I am, and I kind of know like what I want from the external world, like what I'm supposed to accomplish today for work or school. Then I can just execute from that. Or else it's kind of like you don't have a to-do list, and then other people are putting things on a to-do list. And then if you're on TikTok and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna watch a little like cute cat like video, and then it's like an hour later
to the
you're
next
still
clip,
like,
and that's nonstop, and then when you when you realize it, and it's like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like exactly. So like there's too much like information flows into our mind that like we cannot think about ourselves clearly, and we don't set up boundaries in making ourselves more confident, right? So I've heard like a really interesting sentence that people say, like the information flow we have right now for one day is about like approximately 10 years information flows a month in 1970s something. Like it's just too much information we have right now. So especially when international students who come here with like a really young age and without the parents monitor, or like just maybe like a older people advice, giving advice, it's easy for them to walk into a wrong track and a wrong road, and with a wrong mindset of competing and showing off and like the wrong values. So that's why they cannot open their mind. Like that's one of the reasons that like they cannot open their mind a lot, and they think there is no other way to solve their problems, and suicide might be the only way to do it. And like for years that like I see these universities, not just in United States, but also like in Canada, like in Japan, and a lot of students finally decided to suicide themselves. It's because the stress from study, and they think they are over. And do you think that's somehow like related to the parents' problem, that like they want to control their, because you just said before, like parents comparing their grades, right? That's one of the pressure that parents giving to the children. Then so like they think they cannot finish the final, and that's why they decided to be suicided.
I think it might not be just the parents. I think it's the whole environment, right? Because our life is not made up just of our parents. It's like school, like work, or like friends, or like romantic relationships. And parents is just like part of it. And then the stress might come from many places, especially for international students, because not every single one of us like super rich when we come here. And then some of them, like maybe their parents are from like middle class family, and then they really actually like borrow money to come here, and that's adds like an extra level of stress, because if the kid doesn't do well here, then it's kind of like there's no way back, like the bridge is burned. You just have to do well. And then I think it's there's just so many different factors. I think the most important thing is just accept where you are right now. Like, okay, I'm struggling in school. I don't have any friends I can connect to, but that's just the present. Like, I'm sure, like in your past experience, like there must be a friend or parent or someone or some book or some movie that inspire you. I think just try to hold on to that, and then like sometimes people will say like you can create like a vision board, right? So you can just like close your eyes and then just think, like, don't think about any limitations or like how everything is in the present, but more like what kind of future you want to live. Because it's not good to hold on to our past. Our past kind of shape who we are right now, but then our future is shaped by our present moment. So that's why I really recommend like everyone to do some kind of meditation, even if like you cannot like sit down and just chant or like just like not do anything for half an hour, but at least like everyone has hobby, right? It doesn't matter. Even if your hobby is like to watch a drama, but at least if you're watching a drama, you're like 100% like into it. That's also a way for you to forget yourself, and then it gives you some kind of rest or some kind of space within yourself, so that you might feel this sense of like belonging or some kind of like security. And then I think as long as you have that, like some kind of hobby or some kind of routine that make sure you're on the right track, then you will not get sidetracked. The reason why we get sidetracked is because we have nothing to hold on to, right? Like we might not have any friend that understand us, and then we go online, all the information is so negative, and other people are like, oh, I'm suffering from depression, like I got diagnosed of depression today. And it's just like the whole society or like media is not very supportive. And then like sometimes I almost feel like because as international thing, when we come here, it's kind of like we were a part of plan, right? We were rooted there before, but now like everything's like brought up and then moved here. So there must be a period of adjustment. It's okay to feel down, to feel uneasy, but then the society kind of doesn't give us that period of time. Sometimes, especially in school, like the teacher might not even notice there's a new student from abroad, or they don't know what kind of trouble they might be going through with like language barrier wise, and then they use the same standard to measure the student, and that gives like extra layer of stress and like a sense of not belonging. And that's what pushes people further and further. And then it's also the negative cycle of thinking, because the student because we see what we want to see, right? Even though like we are seeing the same picture in a museum, but you might be noticing like the flowers, and might be noticing the rocks there. So we might like keep affirming like what we believe in. So for those students, like once they're in a negative cycle, they'll keep looking for things like, oh, like my friends don't really care about me, they just want some accompaniment, or like my parents don't understand me, they just want me to get good grades. And then once you keep having those thoughts, and then like they're pushing themselves against the wall to the point that they cannot take anymore. That's why they decide to suicide. But it's just like there must be so many signs in that person. Like if anyone noticed it earlier or try to prevent it earlier, then this tragedy could have been prevented. But I guess that's just how everything is.
Yeah. Well, do you have any like advice for our audience, like people who are watching us, listening us? Like, do you have any suggestion or advice that can give so we gain more confidence in setting a boundary every day in our life and help us to maintain a good mental health state? And do you have any advice?
I think for each person it's different, but I've seen like with some of my friends, like they will have some kind of like role model that really motivates them. It doesn't matter if you like a CEO from a company or like celebrity or someone just in your life that's really successful, maybe have like great family or something like you aspire to. So it's important to have a role model, but at the same time it's important to have a support community, like a few friends who you can go to when you have something you want to share. Doesn't matter like happy or sad, they will be there to support you. So that you have this like foundation externally, so that like your external environment will not collapse. Like no matter what happens, like there's some kind of support to make sure you don't fall. But internally, it's important to establish some kind of like foundation as well. So I think it's important to find your hobby, and then don't be afraid to try new things and fail. Like if you think you like skiing and you went skiing with your friends and you realize, oh, it didn't work, it's not what I wanted to do, that's fine. Just try a new thing until you find some hobby you feel like you can immerse yourself for hours, and then you don't feel that, like you feel like time's passing, but then you don't even notice it. That's why people say like when time passes really fast, it's like it feels like it's because you're having fun, that's why you don't even notice. So I think that's important, to find the hobby you really like, and then so that because you look forward to those things, then you wouldn't want to do things negative in your life. And the other thing is, I think it's about mental clarity. So I would recommend people, like if they like went out for a day and then they come home, I think the first thing they should do is shower, so that they kind of like wash away all the external like influence or like factors. Because let's say you have to go out today, right, and you pass by like this industrial site, right, and there's bound to be dust like on you, right? So it's the same like when we go out to interact in school or work or like with friends, but because we're like interacting with different people, so we're and then conversation with anyone, like directly or indirectly, it's also like an exchange of energy. So it's important, I think, to like when we get home, just shower. So like you just kind of like whatever you receive from outside, you kind of just like
wash
clean,
away
wash them away, and then that will bring you back this mental clarity, and then you just kind of have this sense of direction, like, oh, like what I should do next. It just sets up your day straight in a way. So I think that's important. And then just have some kind of form of physical exercise. It doesn't have to be every day, but maybe like 2 to 3 times a week, so that you're grounded, because a lot of us tend to like overthink, and when you do that, then
too much anxiety and like the wrong energy that just clouded up.
But when you exercise, let's say you're running or you're like doing different kind of repetitions, like you cannot think about like I'm not doing well in school, and then try to exercise at the same time, because like, oh, like the next repetition is coming, like I need to keep myself engaged. And then once you sweat, it kind of release all your toxins in the body, and also it just gives you mental clarity, because all your blood is flowing and qi is flowing in the body. So when you exercise, then it gets everything like flowing in the right state. So I think that's also very important, just to exercise like regularly, and also like exercise, sometimes it brings the dopamine out. And dopamine is like the thing that's happiness. Like a lot of people, like the reason why everyone loves fitness these days is because once you sweat, you just feel like all really the stress happy. Is gone, like somehow you just feel happy. So I think we should keep doing that.
So take a good shower, exercise, get out to some fresh air, and always looking up to something new and things that makes you happy is the tips that you give us to just maintain the right mindset and stay at the good mental health status, right?
And the other thing I mentioned before, like fasting. like just maybe like once or twice a month, if you're willing to just be like vegetarian, just like eat lighter, I think that also helps too, because the food we have really affect us too. And the last thing I think is just to some kind of control on social media, so like we won't be scrolling like all the time, because maybe not all the information we follow is like positive. So I think that's also important to notice and be aware of the information flow, because we are what we eat and we are what our minds kind of tell us, and it's important to control the flow of information coming to you.
I truly agree. Yeah. One who is watching is having a good day, and just as Judy said, like take a shower, get out fresh air, and always be with good company and looking up to things that like make you interested, and exercise and taking care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much.